Kia ora, good morning. I just woke up a little while ago. I'm having my coffee. I've been sitting on this video for quite a while just because everything I record is intuitive. Like, I don't know when I'm going to record and I don't necessarily even know what I'm going to say. But I will, obviously, because I'm putting out podcasts and I'm trying to teach people, there are subject matters that I know I will want to talk about, but I'm waiting to formulate the right way to present it because, when you're talking about the paranormal and the supernatural, and I have just my voice, I have to try and convey everything in a way that people from all ages and all levels of understanding and all belief systems will get what it is that I'm saying. Because I'm trailblazing here. I'm the first one to do any of this, to present all of this in a way that is, I wouldn't say radical in the fact that it is so far beyond the realms of anything people will ever be expecting someone to say. Radical, yeah, but not trailblazing, groundbreaking. Like I'm offering a new perspective that has never been thought of before. The scientific perspective. I know people try and use their bleep blop bloop bloops and that when they're doing investigations, but it's all bollocks. You can't be relying on that sort of thing when you're dealing with electromagnetism. When you're dealing with ramped up ion particles in the atmosphere, you can't be relying on things with batteries, and especially not things with lights or LCD screens and that. No, absolutely not. I personally think that when you're doing paranormal investigations and that, when you're doing any of the occult investigations, I personally think while digital cameras are really good at making things clearer and capturing things a lot faster, I personally think we should only be using cameras that rely on film. Back in the old days when they'd process the films, the rolls of film, because everything you need to know is going to be in the negative. And with digital cameras, you don't have a negative. Digital cameras make up things. And I know this because my ex-husband, the one that I'm currently waiting to get justice from, he was teaching me photography because I really, really wanted to learn how to take photos when I go off to do my investigations for my shows. And for my website and all of that, and for my animal conservation program, I wanted to be able to take really nice photos and just every now and then have them up on display in my little art gallery, where we will be promoting, like our veterans and the charity and animal conservation and all our festivals, but an art form in our art gallery, just as like pretty advertising, so he was teaching me photography. He was teaching me how to use my phone, and my son and I had said that when we get out of here, we'll get ourselves some nice cameras because he really loves photography, and he'd teach me how to use my camera, and then we'd go off and do our thing, and I'd make my shows and take photos and have a website up, and because I want to be able to take photos of places where we went to investigate, but then put them up on a website where, because I'm a writer, I'm way more comfortable writing than I am talking, and there's things that I'm going to want to talk about with investigations and stuff, or maybe explain why I did something that wasn't on the show, maybe something was edited out, or maybe something further happened that wasn't on the show, or maybe I needed to work through what I just experienced, or because I deal with a lot. Trust me when I say I deal with a lot when it comes to the paranormal and the supernatural. I go to places that psychics and mediums and they absolutely could not handle. Um, when you have the kind of role that I have, you see things and you experience things, and you have to be calm in situations where any normal person psychologically wouldn't be able to handle it. But I've had to toughen up over the years, and I think it's honestly one of the reasons why I was given a military dad, which is what I wrote into the Quantum Menace. Um, I've studied the paranormal my entire life because my father was fascinated by it. He tried to understand what it was that he was, but nothing was giving him the answers that he was looking for, because he knew he had something. He knew he was experiencing things, but he didn't know what the hell it was. Being raised Catholic and Muslim for him must have been an absolute mind flip when it came to, the beliefs of what happens when you die and your spirit and all of that. I grew up with a mum who was raised Church of England, who became a Catholic, with a dad who was born a Muslim and raised a Catholic. And so plus being Indigenous as well, I grew up with the most fascinating kaleidoscope view of who God was. And I'm so, so grateful for that. But one of the things that religion gets wrong is the paranormal and the supernatural. The Bible recognizes that it's supernatural, but it doesn't recognize all the parts in the Bible that are 100% supernatural, and the rest is just assumption and rules made up by men who didn't want women thinking for themselves, who didn't want slaves being free, who didn't want people being spiritual and going back to, like witchcraft practices and all that sort of thing. Although the term witch is something that was placed on them by the church, but when you look at what the word witch means, it just means wise. It's an old English word and it means wise or intelligent, because they were persecuted for being multilingual. Like, for example, the Scottish were heavily persecuted for their practice in witchcraft, but every single man, woman and child could speak at least 4 languages back in those days. Every single man, woman and child in Scotland, even the peasants, could speak up to 4 languages: Italian, German, French, and Gaelic. Italian, German and French, and Latin as well, were common languages, because they were merchants and tradespeople and all that sort of thing. They were, at one point, Scotland was the richest nation on earth. And they were pillaged and raped, and the Vikings and the Normans and all of that, like it was. But yeah, they could speak multiple languages. They were, the old wives' tales, that all comes from Scotland and Ireland. And they passed everything down, using lavender at your front door to keep unwanted people away, and all that sort of thing. That all comes down from like Germany and Scotland and Ireland and all that. All the wives' tales, it's witchcraft. So because they were speaking languages a lot of these people couldn't, the quote unquote educated people couldn't, and they were writing in languages they didn't understand, and they were using the traditional real, like, Latin names for all their plants and herbs, and like St. John's wort and all of that. They were speaking the devil's tongue. They were accused of speaking the devil's tongue. And so, that's when they started executing them and trying them and, scandalizing them and that, because they were using products and they were using practices that were keeping marriages intact, that was healing the sick. They were performing um, miracles just using plants and herbs and their knowledge of the weather and all that sort of thing. And the church couldn't have that. So, they wrote the Bible. And, started forcing it down people's gobs, and that's just not who God is. And I'm so grateful that my parents allowed me to question God, because what I ended up finding as a result just ended up blowing my mind and took me down a whole new science that I got to develop all by myself, simply by paying attention and studying experiences from myself, from my family, from other people from a very, very, very young age. Because of, being from a large family, I got to see siblings in that create all sorts of things with their hormones, and I got to sit and watch it and then analyse it my entire life. So, I've sat on a lot of knowledge my entire life, waiting for the moment to be able to present it to people so they can go, oh, well, that makes sense. And then they're not afraid anymore. And that was a very, very, very long ways to go around to explain what this video is about. And it is why sometimes when we see apparitions, when we see ghosts, when things are caught on camera, you'll see things without a face, the faceless ghost. Why we will see the faceless ghost or spirit. I hate calling them ghosts because, I mean, ghost and apparition and spirit all pretty much just mean the same thing, which is like the essence of, or the likeness of, the remnants of something that once was. And it's all to do with the brain. Digital cameras are the worst for when it can't figure something out, it makes it up. It has to fill in the blank because it tries to think like it tries to function like a human brain. And how we have pareidolia, the human brain has to fill in the blanks. When something doesn't make sense to the human brain, which works like a computer, it will glitch and it will make you go over things. You can overthink things. You can underthink things, not put enough thought into something. You can, be completely off. You can be completely wrong. You can be 100% spot on. But the brain is designed to fill in the blanks. And if something doesn't make sense, it freaks our central nervous system out. And then, we'll just go over it and over it and over it and over it in our head, trying to make sense of something because something's not right. So the brain will freak out, the alarms go off, the central nervous system kicks off, and then all of a sudden you're having to know what the hell happened to that person. Like, for example, the Malcolm Jamal Warner thing. I had a dream about him this morning where he said to tell people that they needed to check the back of his neck. That he's got marks on his body around the back of his neck and, like nape of his neck and bottom of his head that needs to be checked out because his death wasn't natural. Michael Jackson did the same thing when he died too. He said, they got me. I have witnesses to it too. He said, they got me, and then he pointed to his arm. He rubbed his arm. He said, they got me right in the arm. That's what Michael Jackson said. He looked so sad. He looked absolutely just utterly heartbroken and devastated. They got me, he said. They got me right in the arm. And he was rubbing his arm. And all he kept thinking about was his kids. He loved his kids so much. So anyway, I'm going to have a sip. I was not intending to talk all of this, but I just kind of let it all come out. Let me have a sip. So, like with pareidolia, it is instinctual in us to have to scan our surroundings to look for faces. And then the brain has to identify within like a millisecond, is that a friend or a foe? Do I need to run? Do I need to defend myself? Can I give them a hug? Can I smile? Should I like walk up and attack them? And the brain has to figure all this stuff out in like a millisecond. And digital cameras have to do the exact same thing. I'm going to put a video up that I've been sitting on for a long time of the actress who did the voice of Pocahontas being arrested for being drunk and disorderly, and there being like a black blob thing that follows her down the hallway, and they're trying to say that she was possessed in that, but clearly this is exactly what I'm talking about. The digital camera, the camera that is taking the shot, is glitching out, probably maybe because she's upset. So she's messing with the electromagnetic frequency in the atmosphere. And as soon as she walks past the lights in the hallway, and this is the thing, whenever you see like these black blob anomalies in there, automatically look to see if there's an electrical source and a light. Those two will always come into play when you have glitches that look like black blobs and stuff. There'll always be like a light source or an electricity source, like like an outlet or a TV that's plugged in, that's going, a monitor that's plugged into the wall and the electricity's turned on, or it's a hallway with lights. Do you see what I mean? So when you get those anomalies, it is always going to be because there's been some kind of spaz out that has freaked the chip of the computer on your camera or phone or whatever, and so it's making it up, it's filling in the blanks, and it always gives off paranormal activity, which is why old cameras that from the old days where we had the reels of film are so much better. But nobody makes rolls of films anymore, I don't think. And we really, really should. Going back to the old days of, rolls of film cameras, we really, really should be going back to those days when it comes to doing investigations and that, because digital cameras fill in the blanks. Now, one thing that happens to me a lot when it comes to taking photos is, even though I'm a proud black blood, I am very, 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 very white skinned. I am so white, I'm so transparent that if I hold my hand up to the sun in a certain way, you can see through my hand and literally see the bones of my hand. That's how white I am. And that can be a nightmare when it comes to taking photos with digital cameras and that, because my skin is so white that it freaks the brain of the microchip of the computer chip out, and it fills in the blanks. But what it does with me is that I kept taking a series of photos to send to my husband when he was in prison, and I kept turning up in them so white that I looked almost watery and see-through. And so I went to my ex, who was a photographer. He's very, very he's very, very good at photography, which is why I had gone to him to ask for lessons, not realizing what he was planning behind the scenes. But anyway, and so he was teaching me, and I said to him, "Why does this keep happening?" He said to me, "It's because you're so white. You're whiter than the white spectrum that will be in the programming of the microchip." And so it's filling in the blanks, and it was making me look etheric and glowy. It was making, the like if I was sending in photos of, my new nail polish color or something like that, my hand would be like when you see like an angel, or Vaseline screen, and it's all like huey and angelic and stuff like that. My skin was doing that, like a pearl. And it was just the freakiest, weirdest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And that's when he said to me, my ex said to me, just close the curtains or go into a room, that's slightly darker, because he said it's the way that the light is hitting the camera, it's freaking the chip out, and so it's trying to fill it in because you're so white. And he said basically the light will be bouncing off your skin and like hitting the camera, and it's freaking the camera out and making it glitch and fill in the blanks. And so my hand was looking, or my face, or whatever it was that I was sending of me, the photos of me, I looked like I'd smeared Vaseline on the camera to give me like that angelic hue. um, and my skin was like milky, like just like pearls, just like a pearl. It was just weird. Even my ex, when he got the photos, he said to me, "Did you Photoshop these?" And I said, "No, it's 100% natural." And he said, "I don't believe you." He said, "How did you do that?" And I said, "I swear to God, I'll have the letters under my bed." I said, I can't even explain it." I said, "But," I said, I went to Chris and he said blah 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 blah, and he still didn't believe me because he couldn't understand like how I'd done that. So you have to be careful what you are looking at when it comes to seeing it back on a screen. Now, ghosts without a face, the reason why we will see them without a face, it might be that they don't have eyes, or they don't have a face, or they have like a skeleton, or it's completely pitch black. The reason why that happens is because when it is 100% genuine, when it really is someone or something that has been trapped and it's trying to get your attention, whether you knew them or not, your interaction with them is only going to last for a split second, and you are going to feel it. And you will often feel it long before you actually experience it. And a lot of the signs that you're about to experience something supernatural, where the laws of physics have been completely bent, um, the signs of which can be things like when it suddenly goes eerily quiet, when all of a sudden you feel drained of energy, and your technology starts to play up, lights flickering, and you'll hear like a in the atmosphere, a clicking. That's because the ion particles are rubbing together in the atmosphere, and it's creating static electricity. Your hair will stand up on end. You'll get chills down your spine, and then you might start to get the impression that you're being watched. Have you ever had one of those experiences where you're walking down the hallway, especially at night, and you suddenly feel like you're being watched, and you get this sudden urge to run? That's usually because somebody somewhere in the annals of time have gone up to go down the hallway or something, and they've seen someone walking down the hallway, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Or, "Mom, there's someone in the hallway," that kind of thing. And then you've felt it and thought, "Oh, I need to get out of here." And then, you'll have that urge to run, although your brain might say, "Don't be silly, there's no one behind you," which is a good thing. When your brain thinks that, completely calm down. You don't need to worry. You don't need to worry. The past can't hurt you any more than the dead can. But you will feel it. And if you turn around and look and you see someone standing there, or you're, taking photos, and you catch an image of something without a face, if you see anything without a face, for real, and it's not made up and it's not all in your head, you will always feel it first. And then the reason why you don't see a face and it's freaky and terrifying is because of pareidolia, because the brain is automatically trying to fill in the blanks, because we need to know whether we're dealing with a friend or a foe, whether this predator is, these eyes that we can see behind the back of that bush isn't a predator coming to eat us. It might just be, a big fat lazy cat. or it could be a saber tooth coming to jump out to eat us. And the brain has to quickly scan and fill in the blanks. And if there's anything missing, it makes stuff up. Now, when you're talking about a human, it will fill in the blanks. So the brain will recognize it's a person. You'll see the hands, you might see the clothing, you'll see the legs and the feet, because that's something that all humans have that are exactly the same, is, a body. So it will fill in the body, you'll see the body, but the reason why you won't see the face is because if you don't know who that person is in real life, if you've never met them, your brain has no way of sending an image to itself that, oh, that's Joan, or oh, that's Greg, or that's Nana Papa Blue Blah Blue. Do you know what I mean? If it's like a random apparition of someone from the past that you've never met, your brain is not going to have any clue as to who that person is, so it leaves it out. It doesn't fill in the blank. It'll go, okay, well, that's the head, that's their head. They would have had a skull, or they would have had at least skin, but I can't tell you what the nose and eyes and mouth look like because I've never met this person in my life. And that's why you will have apparitions or see photos without a face, because if your brain doesn't recognize it, the camera won't pick it up. That's physics. How cool is that? How much cooler is that than thinking that it's a dead person walking around who stripped their skin off in order to scare you? Because there are paranormal investigators and psychics and mediums and clairvoyants out there doing these investigations that will say they took their face off to scare you. Do you know how insulting that is to the memory of the dead? If someone has lived and died and they are rising from the dead to contact you, you're going to remember it for the rest of your life, because time is fleeting. It is almost impossible to slow time down enough in order to be able to catch it. So when you are given the ability to be able to manipulate time like I can, where you can slow it down in order to catch frames of it, to solve murders, to, figure stuff like this out, to help grieving people, to do all that sort of stuff. This isn't a science that should be scoffed at and given labels like mental illness. This is a level of physics that takes us into a whole new realm of possibility when it comes to being able to communicate with descendants in the future, the council, those that are called aliens or whatever. Like, it's already there, but the thing getting in the way is the technology that man is creating in order to get there. It's actually slowing us down and doing more harm than good. It doesn't need to be that complicated. And the paranormal and the supernatural, the occult, let's just call it the occult, because it is the occult, paranormal and supernatural, it's all the occult, the knowledge of the hidden, the secrets of the hidden. When you're, it frustrates me. When you understand the knowledge that is hidden in this universe, you will understand that it is man who has slowed man down by trying to create this sort of unnecessary technology in order to be able to get the job done, and they've slowed us down by probably 200 years. Like my space program, for example, is so much simpler. It's so much less hassle than everything that they're all doing now. Their technology is so far behind. But it's like I can only put it out there. I can only put it out there and let people do with the information what they will. They can either advance themselves or not. If you want to run around thinking that the dead rise from the grave and rattle chains and run around ripping their faces off and, being all demonic and that to scare the crap out of you just because, then okay. But time is fleeting. And time is made up of, well, I mean, an atom. When you look at the core fundamentals, you've got your quarks and your gluons and your blah, blah, blah. But what it really is gravity, momentum, balance, time, and magnetism. All wrapped up in gases and minerals and that decide its own fate. But time is fleeting, and atoms are constantly changing. Change is the only constant, it's the only thing we can rely on, is change. And as we're developing new technology to try and understand the world we live in, the further back we are getting in understanding the physics of who it is we actually are. Technology is destroying the advancement of mankind. We're supposed to be doing this ourselves. We're supposed to be like, how they talk about aliens and UFOs and putting them in their big clanky flying machines and all that kind of bollocks. I mean, it's embarrassing, it's degrading. We're so far behind in our knowledge of human advancement. We think it relies on, lithium and electricity and buildings and digital technology and programming, and it's not. It's supposed to be us. They don't even use crafts. They don't need UFOs and crafts, and yet we keep insisting that they float around in these big crafts and that. They don't even need human bodies, and yet we keep insisting that they walk around with big massive eyes and they're green, grey, blue. They've got 3 fingers and they look like reptiles and this, that and the other thing. Our brains have gone in and filled in the blanks of things that are so ridiculous, it's embarrassing. And when in the new world, when we evolve to the point where all the truths are uncovered in history, and we realise just how wrong the elites and that got it with how they saw Egyptians and aliens and that sort of thing, it's going to be embarrassing. Because we're supposed to have evolved to be like them, where we don't need bodies, where we don't need to talk. We're supposed to have evolved by now beyond the need to use our mouths in order to be able to communicate. We're losing our ability to communicate with each other telepathically, and it's something Indigenous people have been doing for thousands of years. Animals have been doing it for millions of years. And we're losing the ability because we're distracted by AI and digital and technology and space advancement and all that. But it's not advancement, it's actually de-evolving us. It's taking away our ability to evolve organically. And evolution, by its mere definition, means untouched by man. Untouched. Evolves on its own. Its biological and organic makeup decides itself as it goes. And then what it gets wrong, it tears down and builds again. Starts from scratch. It doesn't fill in the blanks. It just keeps going until it gets it right. And we've let AI and digital technology and that completely strip us of our innate ability to be able to read each other's thoughts. I feel the need, I need to call my sister. I don't know why, I haven't spoken to her for a couple of weeks. I think I'm going to give my sister a call, and then you'll call her and she's absolutely distraught. Oh my God, I needed you, or, I've been so sad and I didn't want to reach out and blah, blah, blah. That sort of thing. We're losing that ability. Telepathy in its simplest form. I know, baby, I miss you too. I wish we could talk. And feeling that sadness in your heart because you miss your love, but they're busy. and they haven't been able to stop to communicate, and you'll just get that pang of missing them, and you'll be like, oh, I know, baby, I miss you too, sort of thing. It's because like they've taken that time to think about you, and you felt it. You felt their sadness. We're losing all of that. It takes a really close, exceptionally close relationship now for the couple, whether it's their sisters, friends, work colleagues, lovers, spouses, whatever, family members, whatever, it doesn't matter. You have to be exceptionally close now in order to be able to have that telepathic bond. Otherwise, nobody's. It's exhausting for someone like me who reads everything because I have to work harder to unblock people so that they can start picking up on things again. Because we're all supposed to be like me. And if we were all like me, we would have gotten off this planet probably when I was a kid, by the time I was a kid. But we're not, because technology. They think they're being clever and smart, but they've just fast-tracked themselves to extinction. These are the people that will never get off the planet. And the reason why is because they're doing everything the slow way. See, like with the digital cameras filling in the blanks, it's doing everything the slow way. It slows the whole thing down. Having to figure it all out has taken years and years and years and years. You know, it's slowed everything down by filling in the blanks. Because the truth of the matter is, we will never be able to withstand travelling to the sort of the places that they think that we're going to be able to go to in little Elon Musk's missiles. Our physical bodies won't be able to withstand it. So, you know, we'll have to keep inventing ships that have the right kind of mix of gases and oxygens and food and all this sort of thing. And it's going to take years and years and years and years and years to, you know, we'll get a little bit further, or do it my way, where you just evolve yourself beyond the need of needing a physical body to travel through wormholes and stuff. And you can do it just sitting in my gaming chair. Because in me learning to time jump, my body took a battering. It's taken me since 2016, since I had that incident that I talk about on X and Instagram on my son's birthday, when we went to the dinosaur safari in Birmingham. It was one of the greatest, most special days in my life. But I had an incident there that started all of this. And the battering that my body has taken just to be able to handle the jumps that I do, and how quickly and brief they hit me, and that your body has to be so prepared. It's taken me nearly, 9 years? It's taken me 9 years for my body to be able to physically withstand being able to catch glimpses of time and hold it in my hand long enough to be able to prove that my physics is real. Manipulating time to manifest reality, that's pretty much quantum magnetics. And when you're dealing with apparitions that don't have a face, that's time being manipulated to manifest reality right in front of your face, or like on your camera. But because it's a moment in time that it never got to experiencing the face of the person, it will completely leave it out. When it is someone you know, it will be evident. And if it's because, if it is someone you know that you absolutely know 100%, that it's someone you know, but they're missing a face, then that's you. That's because you're maybe not wanting to admit that it is who you think it is, or that you're finding it hard to believe that it is who you think it is. So your brain then kind of like goes into denial. This can't really be happening. But that person's dead. Well, if they're dead, you know, look, let's wipe out the face to protect us from the pain and grief of knowing that we just stood in front of our dead loved one, that sort of thing. So this all boils down to your digital cameras and that will work just like your human brain, and it will fill in the blanks when something doesn't make sense or leave something out in order to protect you from what it is that you're trying to deny, because that's how powerful the human brain is. And yet you've got people out here trying to convince us that it's a good idea to put microchips in them, and the human brain will be more powerful at any point in our development than any AI technology could ever hope and wish to dream for, because AI isn't instinctual, it's not intuitive, and it's not empathic. They are three emotions that cannot be programmed. And to say that it is intuitive is deceitful. To say that AI is intuitive, it's deceitful. When something is scripted, um, it's deceitful. Because even like the human genome, even DNA changes constantly through evolution. But when it's manipulated by man, that's not evolution. That defies that defies what evolution is. And AI technology and digital bollocks and that's not evolution in any way, shape or form. In any way, shape or form. And if you sign up to it, you're signing up to your own extinction. We're supposed to be putting in the time and the work and the effort to build ourselves up so that we become like super soldiers. Where we become super soldiers. Where our energy can, like, keep negative things away and protect us from harm, and to be able to communicate with our loved ones not using our mouths, and to be able to see things and automatically know what our dreams mean. And we're all supposed to be mutants, but we've let technology take over and think for us, and it's gotten it wrong. And not only is it getting it wrong, but it is perpetuating, feeding into the mental health society which just we live in now. Everybody wears mental health labels like a badge of honour, which is just terrible. People would rather think that they had mental illnesses than admit that they need to deal with childhood trauma. Or that they need to just get out of the job they hate or the marriage that's tearing them down, and they'd rather, oh no, it's psycho existence of the something or other blah 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 syndrome. No, it's not. It's because you're unhappy and you're a coward and you don't want to leave your relationship or your job because you can't be asked having to deal with the fallout, or it just seems like too much hard work and blah blah blah. So now procrastination is like it's a trauma response from this, that and the other. No, it's not. Get off your ass. You're making excuses. Stop making excuses for being lazy. And that's exactly what happens when when the camera in that, it's the camera being lazy. It's filling in the blanks to make excuses for why it doesn't want to do its job. But that's because digital technology isn't intuitive, and it is your intuition that is going to put a face on that body. Do you see what I mean? So now you know. And I know that was just a long way to go about explaining stuff, but like I said, I know what I want to talk about. I don't necessarily know how I want to say it, but I will spend a long time trying to figure out the right words in order to get you to understand. I like to build a picture in order to get to my point, because these are classes and it's a podcast, and I don't, sometimes I might make a video that's like 5 minutes long, but if I was a professor and you were coming to my university to learn the occult sciences, you'd be sitting here for about 40 minutes to an hour at least before I let you ask questions. So I've got a whole thing on Instagram that I did about pareidolia and photography. I put it up on my X as well. I really enjoyed writing it, and this is one of the reasons why I want to be able to learn to take photos and put my website up, have like a blog up, because there's things that I love to write about that I won't necessarily remember to say on camera when we're off doing the Eye in the Sky shows. And I'm really, really hoping that my co-host for my radio show will be up for wanting to come around the world and make these shows with me. I want to be able to go to ordinary people's houses. I will go to places like, Bob Mackey's and all that, because, you kind of have to. And like Gettysburg, and I want to go to all the battlefields and that to put my clay down anyway to, cleanse it all. But I'm hoping that he'll want to come with me. So he'll need to have a passport. And then we can go off and make these shows with our camera crew and our lighting people, and just like maybe a team of 4 or 5 of us, and our drones, and go off with our torches and lamps and all sorts of things, doing it my way, working with the local animals, working with all the local area. I'll have to work with all of that on camera before I even begin to go and investigate buildings and properties. I'm going to want to check the land and the nature out first. Being Indigenous, if I'm going to be dealing with people's spirits and ancestors and that, I need to be able to get permission from the local wildlife and that first. I need to know that I'm welcome, because I need their protection when I step between the realms of life and death, of life and spirit. So there'll be like a whole thing that I have to do before I even go in to talk to the child or the people or the whoever to investigate. So I'm hoping he's up for adventures. I'm really, really hoping he's up for an adventure, because we may have to live on a tour bus or a camper van, or, while we're driving between hotels, and we may have to camp out at night sometimes. And oh my God, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm just having a sip of my coffee. Right. So there you go. The only other thing I'll say is there's always an exception to every rule, right? Sometimes, very occasionally, when you experience an actual encounter with someone who has crossed over and their face will be mangled or, missing or whatever, you'll find it a lot with children. A lot of people, when they die suddenly and unexpectedly, when they show themselves to you, they will show themselves the way they appeared when their body was found, or when they died, or, when you had that connection with them. They won't remember to turn away from the memory of their death when they're presenting themselves to someone in the living. So there is always an exception. If it's how their body was found, then obviously, do you know what I mean? So there is always an exception to every rule, and I will try and remember them all. But then this is also why my blog is going to be up, because then if I forget anything, I can put it on the blog. So yeah, but I have got a thing on my Instagram that talks to you about pareidolia. I give like all sorts of examples, and that it was while I was learning photography from my ex before he tried to kill me. So anyway, if I could, I would like to have normal cameras from back in the days where they had the rolls of film, because the negatives will always give you the answer right there. And yeah, but I'll try and have a digital camera that's not too technical, because I can't work technology. So my son's going to teach me how to use it, and then I'll be able to take photos of the wildlife and that before I do these investigations and promote conservation and all of that. So put it all up and make people appreciate nature a little more. So I'm going to go and make myself another coffee now. I'll leave the comments on if you have any questions or anything. Otherwise, well, I mean, I probably won't even know that you've asked questions because I'm really heavily shadow banned. And I don't even know that I have any interactivity on my X now because he doesn't even let me know if I get likes or messages or views or anything like that. He likes to keep everything at zero because he doesn't want people knowing that I'm out there. Because I'm proving him wrong and everything that he stole from me, I've created better than what he stole. Like I've surpassed him in every way. And of course, you know, I'm shutting him down. So he's trying to stop me from getting out there by having all my social media on lockdown. But I know it's reaching the right people. I know that there are eyes behind the zeros because I see the glitches. Sometimes it glitches and I see the true count. But, you know, it's pedophiles protecting pedophiles. I'll let God deal with them all. As long as Russia's safe, as long as Vladdy's safe, as long as my king is safe, I don't care. People are getting the message. I know people are out there listening. He just doesn't want me to see it. Elon Musk, yeah. But I'm the biggest threat because I do everything so much better and I have gifts and abilities that they will never have with all their money in the world. And I see things they don't want me to see, and I'm not afraid to speak it. So if I can convince people to look at things a different way, then maybe you won't fall into their digital AI trap, because then you're going down with them. Flies to fly paper. And yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go and have another coffee. So just food for thought. I will speak to you later. Ka kite anō.